10:04 now. So
we're 10:04, so we're ready to go.
We are. Kia ora, e te whanau. Welcome to the first of 3 virtual workshops that RIMS New Zealand and Pacific Islands is offering its members. And it's so great to see all of you joining us today. I'm Megan Hastings and I lead the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion stream for RIMS. And we were talking at a board meeting and we really felt that this is the time of year when we all take time to reflect on our year, much as it's been, and on our achievements and the things that maybe haven't gone as well. But also we set ourselves goals for the next year and we think about what we want that year to look like. And so we knew Catherine and we had met her, and we are now delighted to introduce Catherine Sanford of Move to More. So Catherine leads the personal brand and coaching side of M2M, and she believes that a personal brand is the winning formula for future success. She will facilitate each of the 3 sessions, so please take the time to register for the one in February and in March, which will build on these. And I am really looking forward to taking the journey with Catherine today, and I hope you are too. So over to you, Catherine.
Thank you. Kia ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā nui ngā mihi kia koutou, no mai haramai ki te wānanga o tēnei ata. Ko Catherine Sanford tuku iwi, tuku ingoa, no kaikoi tuku kāinga, engari noho ana ahau ki te tamaki makaurau, no ngā pui, ahau te parawhanua, te marae, ko te ahuahu te maunga, ko o māpere te wai, ko waitangi te awa, ko nā maki toro, te waka, nā tuku naka whāroa, te waka, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. No mai, hara mai. Kia ora everybody, I'm so pleased to be here this morning. I'm very excited. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Diella, my business partner, and she's going to disappear soon because I'm telling you.
Am I? Hello, everyone.
So Diella's going to be helping me on the polls and getting everything organised. We're going to have a bit of activity happening, and so Diella's going to be managing that. So I will be referring or calling Diella to come back to report on a few things that we're going to get you to do during the session.
Right.
And
so Catherine, you want me to turn my video off and then just come back in when you call me?
Fabulous.
Okay, see you all later.
See ya. And to my left, I've got my techie person who I can't survive with, and she's hiding, but I'd just like to welcome Anya. Thanks, Anya, for coming in this morning to help me get this going. I need to focus on what I do really well, and with the support of everybody else in the team means that I can serve you guys and be able to help you go through this session. So what we're looking at today is, the session is about, well, it's about personal growth. It's part of 3 sessions. So we've got a clarity session, which is today, the strategy session, which is all about your personal brand and how to put what you learned today into a strategy for you to deliver results. So we've called it clarity, strategy and results. And I'm really excited about taking you on the journey. I believe that the step around getting clarity is really important, particularly with COVID and the impact that COVID has brought to our lives. And the question that many people ask me when I'm coaching is, how do I start? How do I start this journey? I kind of know I need to, but I'm not sure how I started. And the question is, we're trying to find out today, and I'm helping facilitate that for you, is what does personal growth mean to me? And how do I start the process? So in this next few sessions, we're going to look at change, and we're going to understand why does change, why does it matter, and how do we do change? How do I personally understand what change means to me? And the second part of the seminar or webinar is going to be, what are the 5 strategies that I can share with you to help rewire your brain for success. And I'll give you later on a big introduction to the brain, which is fascinating, around how much influence our subconscious has on how we live our lives and how we react and respond to events in our lives. And the third one that we're going to look at is MOJO. You know, this is energy in action. What is MOJO? Where is it for me? And how do I get it back? You know, COVID has brought for us and me, and I know for many people and for you out there, a really tough time, particularly the second one. I think we were just talking to Megan before about how the first lockdown, it was new. We were kind of, let's do things. We were far more active and far more enthusiastic, I suppose, about it. And now the second one, I know for many, has been a long process, and it's brought up a lot of anxiety and fear. Inaction has been an issue with many of my clients that I've been coaching. Inaction has been, I just can't start. I just don't know how to start. So we're going to look at MOJO. We're going to look at how do you get it back, especially if you've lost it. And then at the end of the session, we're going to have questions and answers. And this is where you come right and ask me questions, and we hope to answer it. So through the session, if you're thinking of, oh, there's a really important question that I want to ask, jot it down. There will be, at the end of the session, we will be sending out tomorrow a follow-up email, and attached to that will be what we call a takeaway. So it encapsulates everything that we've discussed today and I've presented to you today in a kind of workbook, and we do some challenges for you. This is your responsibility. It's up to you to choose to do it, but it really takes you through the exercises that we're going to be talking about today, and you get to sort of put that into your format and hopefully be able to learn and take action around what it is that you want to achieve in your life. So who am I? Well, you've heard my little mihi. You know, I come from up north. You know, I'm Ngāpuhi. People say that that's the best one. I pretty much agree. The biggest and the best. And I have both a personal life and a professional life. My professional life is involving these two wonderful women, which is Diala in the middle and Anya, who's my tiko over here. So we recently rebranded. We've been on a very big journey, and COVID last year was really the key for us. We sat down at March when COVID came through last year in 2020. Our recruiting business pretty much died. And so when we entered into lockdown, we really didn't have, and we would go on it. I tell you what, we were so excited because we were doing really well. But as a result of everybody sort of stopping things, our business went from exciting to, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we sat in those 4 weeks deciding we could either sit there and give up, or we can start doing things that can, where we can help others, because we were getting a lot of candidates who had lost their jobs ringing us and asking us for help. So we started doing webinars, we started doing videos, just did it. And in one day we sat down and we thought, you know what, we need to really look at what we do well and how do we best serve communities that we want to work with, because all three of us are very human-centric. So we really love helping and serving others. And so we decided that where we sat in the blue sky aspect was great, but it wasn't who we were. So we rebranded and became end-to-end, moved to more, which was what our kind of ethos in business is all about, and in our lives, is that we're always constantly moving to more. And if we can help people move to more, it enables, it's a win-win for everyone. So that's the kind of the history. So what it was an interesting journey. Sometimes we had our heads on the desks there thinking we can't get up because we just don't know what to do next. And then other times we were excited. It's been one of these journeys that's gone like this. And what we've learned, all three of us, is that we have to walk the talk. And that's really something that's very important for me and Diala and Anya, is that if we are helping people, we need to be walking the talk. So a lot of what I share in this webinar today is really about my experience and our team, Diala and Anya's experience. We walk the talk. So and that's what I'm passionate about. So my objective or my purpose for today is to help you walk your talk, is to share whatever I have with you, my story, anything I can do to help you move to more. And as I said in the question time, the question and answers, if there's anything that you would like to ask in regard to how can I help you or how can I move to more, then please participate. We really look forward. And then of course I've got a personal life. These are my husband, me and my children. Now this is a very young photo. My family's expanded now. My son is in Sweden. He's married to a Swedish woman. We've got 2 beautiful grandchildren. My daughter's just come back from LA after traveling around for many years. And she's now setting up her own business and living at home, which is an interesting thing because we were empty nesters and now we kind of, got an adult child, which is an interesting dynamic. And then my husband is here with me. And so that's me. We've got a pretty big family. My husband's Samoan. We have a very mixed dynamic family, and very much try to live that, the values of whānau, whakawhanaungatanga, aroha in what we do. Hey, we try anyway. So that's me and my family. So let's look at adapting to change and why it matters and how to do it. So, adapting to change is something that is hard. And I think one of the things that we all need to understand is that humans are not wired for uncertainty. So the brain is not wired, and this is why later on I'll talk to you more about what you need to understand about how to reframe and reset your mind. But the brain does not function as well in uncertainty. And I think if you can accept that, it becomes a lot easier to adapt to change, because the one thing in life that is absolutely consistent is change. There is no way that you cannot go through life without change, disruption, and uncertainty, which is really weird because the brain is not wired for that. And that dates back to evolution times, hunters and gatherers. There were certain aspects of how they lived their lives as they developed, as humans developed and the brain developed. The brain is designed to protect you, and it can only protect you in certainty. It can't protect you in uncertainty. So I think if you get to understand that your brain is operating on an certainty platform, and you just need to reset it and reframe it and understand your thoughts and actions around how you can manage how you respond to change rather than how you react. And that's the key of what we're going to try and work through today. And I think understanding also that change is a constant in your life. It will happen and you cannot avoid it. And so hopefully through this webinar, I keep calling it a seminar, but webinar, you'll be able to pick up some tools and strategies to help you manage change and deal with change in a way that you are more likely to flourish rather than not flourish. So, so we've got a poll question. And what I would asking you here is, how do you feel about change in general? And Diala's going to, it should pop up on your screen, which is doing it right now. And if you could answer that question, we'll be able to see. So how do you feel? Uncomfortable, fearful, optimistic? It's just disappeared from my screen. Let's
Can
have a
you
look.
just tell Anya that poll question 1 isn't letting me launch?
The poll question 1 is not letting you launch. Tech-O issue. How do we go now? Is it launching now, Anya? Diala? Yeah.
Got it now?
Yep.
Okay, I'll come back.
Oh,
with
I
the
can't
results.
vote. Host and panelists can't vote. So there is feelings that come with change, and let's go back to that poll question. How do you feel in general? How do you feel about change in general? Comfortable? Okay, we've got a chat coming up here. Optimistic. Fabulous, Megan. That's what I like. Yes. How are we going? When are the results coming in? Yep. Oh, great. What? Hey, this is great. Excited, optimistic. Fabulous. Yep, that's right. So now what we've got is we've got a few, majority is optimistic, which is fabulous. And I think that's a really good platform to move forward with change. Excited is great. The real feelings that sit, and I honor those who have been very honest, because many of us do feel this, is the uncomfortable and fearful. These are feelings that are real, and I think that, thank you very much for acknowledging that. So in general, there's a good sense of, and I think, you know what, it's sometimes around, we've got to a point of time where, you know, you're at a point after the lockdown, we're coming into red, I think, the red light. We are in the red light, aren't we? Yeah. That you are at a point where you either choose to be optimistic and let's move forward, or you don't choose to and you stay static. And there's been this term that's been floating around for a while now, which is called languishing. And languishing and flourishing. And I first came across this term when I worked in mental health. And there was a psychologist that came through to our sessions, and he was the one that first talked about mental health in the sense that you can be in a mental illness but still live a flourishing life, or you can have the same illness and still live a languishing life. It's all about perspective, your own perspective, and what the tools and strategies you live to be flourishing are the tools are more sustainable than the tools and the strategies or whatever you do in your perspective to be languishing. Languishing takes you down, which we all know, and flourishing moves you forward. And so when you're starting to, and everybody has these feelings and we've all had them, but you get to a point which is really good that most of you here are looking hopefully forward, being optimistic. And that's an action. And some of the things that we're going to be talking about soon are hopefully strategies that can help you to take that optimism and move it into action, which becomes your kind of mojo. So that's a really good start. And as I love this woman. I don't know whether you have heard of her, Susan David. She says you can't control your thoughts and feelings, but you can control your response. And there's a moment, and she's written a book about emotional agility. And she talks about the ability to be emotionally agile, and understanding self is really important, and understanding your subconscious. So recognizing the thoughts, recognizing the feelings. So if you are feeling fearful, if you are feeling scared, you recognize it. And then there's a moment of time where you have a choice. And the choice is where you have control, and that is your response. So accepting and banishing your fears is not a great way, because they never go away. Trying to eliminate your negative feelings or thoughts or anything that's bringing you down, they will always come up, because it's just the way we're wired. What happens though is that as you go on your journey towards flourishing, And as Susan David says, what you're enabled to do is that you start to have control. You start to have choice over how you respond. And that is where the power sits, in that little gap where you take a breath, and there's various techniques where you can adapt or use to take that breath, or to take or create that pause where you start to think, what is my next response? And that's the moment where you have the most power, in that little moment, which is, and the more you build on it, those moments become bigger. So let's make a start. What does change mean to me? And you can pop this in a little chat if you want to put your answer. What does change mean to me? I know that change means, for me, it means that I ignore it, used to, because I was scared of it. And it wasn't until events happened in my life that I realized that if I didn't make change, I was going to go nowhere, in the sense of there was going to be no hope. There was going to be no optimism. So, oh, that's great. Being open and agile to something new. That's fabulous. Anybody else would like to pop a little comment about what change means? It can be presented as an opportunity or as a challenge. 100% right. That is, it is, and it's perspective. Once again, it's how we view change. The opportunity, there was, I think it was JFK was said that, and don't quote me, I think it was him, said there's always an opportunity in a crisis. And I think that that's a really powerful statement to make, that when we sit, particularly in this pandemic, is that we have to look at our perspective, once again, our response and how we view it, and see the opportunity and look for the opportunity where optimism and hope, that's where they come in. Resilience to change is a big factor to change success, being open and willing to accept change. And I agree. Thanks, Kerry. I think that that resilience to change is huge. And resilience is something that's built on. It doesn't, everybody can have resilience, but understanding that it's layers of foundation building that enables you to, it's the learning journey. It's the process of learning, because change is a process, and it's actually enabling yourself to navigate your way through the process. It can affect one, or it can affect many. Hey, look at us in the pandemic. Thanks, Megan. It has. It's taken, I don't know, it's interesting times. And I think that what I've, in my coaching with my clients, one of the things that I've actually said is that you have to learn to breathe through change, particularly this change, because it's never ending. And you have to sort of take that breath as one of the most powerful tools to use as a way to manage your response to change. And it's at that moment that I talked about before with Susan David, understanding how to breathe, the 4x4 or box breathing, which is taking in 4, counting, holding 4, letting out 4. That is the moment of time where you can start to be present and understand how to move forward. It gives you that moment, is breathing. And often I got a text the other day from a friend who was in, her mum's not very well. She's, you know, pretty near in her life. And I just breathed through it. And she said, what was that again? You said, you know, what's that breathing technique? And I said, box breathing. Here it is, 4x4x4. And she went, oh, yeah, I'm doing it right now. So these tools that I'm sharing with you, please apply them. They will only be useful to you if you use them. And some tools don't work for you, some tools will, but ones that resonate with you, please use them because they work. The breathing one is one of the best. Change is a journey. Thanks very much, Diella. It is a big journey, and it is the journey of learning. So let's go to the next slide. So why is it, sorry, I've just skipped ahead. Why is it important for me to understand change? Simple question there. To understand change means you understand your life. You understand who you are. You understand what you want, and you understand what's important to you. When you have this clarity, which is what our session is all about, when you have clarity, it just gives you so much ability to focus and have direction. And therefore, when you're facing change, or when you're being impacted by change, or when change is coming into your life, disruption and uncertainty, you're able to look at it and understand what it means to you. And you're able to apply that focus and belief in self to navigate your way through. And so when you're in a languishing moment, and when you're living a life languishing, it's really hard for you to manage and understand change. But when you move out into that hope and optimism and into more of a flourishing state, then change becomes a lot easier. You understand it better. Yes, I agree. Avasha, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Avasha. Change is one of the constants in life. We will always face change in our personal and professional lives. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes I do, when I wake up in the morning, I just go, okay, I'm ready for it. Whatever comes today will come because it's meant to come. And I'm ready and strong enough to manage, particularly with COVID. I can do this. I can do it. I'm okay. I'm supported. I'm loved, and I can do this. So how do I take control? How do I manage change in my life? Well, that's what we're here today for. It's to share the tools. And as I said earlier, my job is to share what I believe has helped me, and tools and strategies that I believe, hope will help you. And as I said, some of them may not work, but the ones that do resonate with you, please use, because they're very powerful. The more you use them, the more they become part of your life. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to have a chat, if that's okay with you. I'd like to know, because I like to engage. I like to know what everybody's doing. So let's chat. And what I do here is I think about things. These are the questions that people ask me. I want to know more about how to stay motivated. I'd like to know more about how to overcome procrastination. I'd like to know how to become friends with change. Can you show me some tools or how to be a better communicator? How can I make the decision-making process painless? So these are some of the questions that I've had from clients and stuff. But what I'd like to know is from you, what is it that you would like to cover today to answer one question? What is the one question that you would like answered today in this webinar? I said it, webinar. So what's a one question? If you could just think about one question that you would like to have answered in the session today. And I'll explain why I'm asking you this in a minute, but it would be good if you could just type your questions in the chat, and we could have a look at one question that you would like answered today in the webinar. Is anybody going to answer a question? Have we got some here? Yep. Okay, they're coming in. Here we go. How to combat procrastination. Diala, you're not, it should be me. How to be friends with change. Yep, that's great. Procrastination, it doesn't have to be these questions. These are kind of prompts that I thought I would share with you. If you've got one question that you would like to answer, you'd like me to sort of answer or help answer for you in this session, that would be great. So how to acknowledge your feelings with change before moving forward. Fabulous, thanks Cindy. How to find motivation to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Wolfgang, I'll definitely be helping you with that. How not to feel negative about change. Perfect. How can I get everyone on the same journey as me so that we're aligned? That's a great question actually, Nikki. I'll keep that. Yeah, that's a great question, Nikki. How my response to change can help me guide others through change. Yep, like that one, Megan. When there is change in routine during lockdown, some of MOJO's diminished. How to get it back? Yeah, we'll be looking at that as well. That's fabulous, Avasha. Thank you very much. So we're getting a few responses here, which is great. So I'm going to explain to you why I've asked you this question. And it's to do with managing expectations. Now, this is a tool. So every time I'll let you know what I'm sort of teaching you here is a tool around managing expectations. And managing expectations is managing the energy in a relationship. It's very hard for me to manage relationships when I can't actually see you. So I have to sort of get it out of you as to what is your expectation of today? Because if I don't know your expectation of today, it's going to be difficult for me to I've got lots of information, but how do I fine tune it in to serve you so that at the end of the session, you are able to walk away going, yep, that one question it answered, or if it didn't, I can get back to Catherine and ask her. Managing expectations is a relationship management. It's the energy in relationships. So just to tell you, I love telling stories. So I was sharing this story with Anya the other day when we were looking at managing expectations. So I used to go to Wellington heaps to do work and stuff. And I used to stay in a hotel, I can't remember the name of it, down by the Michael Fowler Centre. I think they've changed the name. But I was going there 2 or 3 times a month, and I'd go to the same hotel. And when I walked into the reception area up to the hotel desk, they'd ask me my name, they'd give me my key to get in, they'd say you're on the 2nd floor. I would walk in there and take the lift up to the 2nd floor into my hotel room and walk in the door, and everything that I expected to be there was there. My energy was neutral. It was like, yep, that's there. And then the situation happened where one day I went in there and there were no towels. So the housemaids had forgotten to put in the towels. So when I went in to get the shower, I looked around the bathroom, was like, where are the towels? And when that happened, what I expected, my energy went down. Not good. So then I sort of thought, okay, so then we were coming back. This is a couple of months later, and I walked in there, and one day I walked in and I was greeted personally. It's like, oh. No, they did ask me later. They said, oh, Catherine Sanford. They were like, oh, you've been upgraded to the penthouse. I was like, what? And they said, oh yeah, here's you're going up to the penthouse. You've got 2 nights up there. Congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh wow. So I got my ticket, my key. I got this valet guy, took my luggage up, popped into the penthouse room, opened it up, the apartment. There were a beautiful bunch of fruit and flowers there saying, welcome, enjoy your stay, Catherine. We're really happy to have you there. When that happened, my energy skyrocketed. I was just like, whoa. So what happened is that I rang everybody and was like, look at this. And I was so excited and so happy. I was energized. This was the best hotel ever. So then I left and I came back 2 weeks later and I'm pumped because I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be exciting. But guess what? No, it didn't happen. I was back to your name. Here's your, you're on the 2nd floor. Here's your key. Bye. And then immediately my energy went down. So the thing that happens is you can manage your relationships here when you are clear, which is why I asked the question of you, is I know what you're expecting in this. And when I offer, and when you, situation with the hotel, is when I was offered, I knew that my energy level was fine, but when I was offered that extra, they did not explain to me that it was a one-off, that my name had been drawn out of the cards, the business card, and I'd won that. They didn't explain that to me. They didn't say, this is an extra, that you, just for this one time, you have got the penthouse. The moment you are given extra, and do not define it as an extra. The moment it becomes, by the other person receiving it, it becomes a standard. And that's what happened to me. It was not explained, so it immediately became standard. And when I didn't get it, my energy went down. So what does this have to do with you and your life and work? In work, we're looking at dealing with people, and often, once again, it's ourself and how we respond. So sometimes when we want to give extras, which is great, we don't clarify that it is an extra. And the person who is accepting that extra piece of work, say you want to do an extra, work extra hours, you want to do this extra piece of project for this person, they immediately expect it to be, it's a standard, unless you clarify it. So I know today that I have certain standards that I have to deliver, and I'll be giving extras, of course, but I know that I can manage my energy and your expectations in this space. So when you are sitting professionally in your work environment and you're managing staff, be very clear when they do something well, that is an extra, and help them to clarify it, because immediately, or if you give something of yourself, in your mind, it is an extra, because what happens is you will start to build resentment up, because you'll still keep giving the extras, but you won't be getting valued or recognized for it. So this is really important when it comes to our second strategy session around your personal brand. It's managing relationships. But why I wanted to introduce it today, here now, is because you need to understand for yourself when it comes to managing change, you need to know that you can manage change here really well. And when you give yourself an extra, make sure that you just clarify it with yourself, and then make that decision. Is this the tool that is going to give me the energy? So it comes back to one of the questions is, my response to change and bringing others on my journey. It's understanding what their expectations are of the journey. I think it was Nikki. And knowing that when you know what this is all about, because in your mind, you might be doing, oh, let's do this stuff, and this stuff. It may not work, but in here, that's where you can bring them on the journey, because you're understanding exactly what their expectation is, and you can work to that expectation. So it's standards and extras. It's a great tool. I have used it with my children who are now adults, but they used to go, once again, they'd say, Mum, stop using standards and extras. So my daughter was a great negotiator. So she would say, can I have $1? And I'd go, no. And then she'd go, why not? And then I'd have to manage that. And then once I gave her the $1, she said, can I have 2? And I'd go, no. So it was a whole dynamic of negotiating and boundaries. It's really good for boundaries because you get clarification. The clarity part of managing expectations in your relationships, professionally and personally, comes from the baseline of this model. So please use it because it works. So let's get on to our brain, or your brain, my brain, your brain. So this is RAS. I'm not too sure whether many of you had heard of the reticulation activation system, the gatekeeper of your mind. So this is a place in our brain which really controls how we sound. It controls our internal world. It is responsible for our sleep. It's responsible for how we view and what we say and how we do and how we behave. And it's there to protect us, but it's also there to help us get perspective of our world. And it only operates on our thoughts and our actions. So whatever we tell RAS, it believes it. It believes it to be true. And this is where the I suppose you could call the elements of self-limiting beliefs and all the negative processes. And it goes back to one question that we had in the chat. I think it was Megan. How my response to change can help me guide others through change. And also Marina, how not to feel negative about change. Is that, sorry, your RAS is essentially the platform or portal, which will, that's where it all comes from, the negativity, the thinking, the response that isn't helpful to you. It sits with RAS. And the great news is, though, you can change RAS because you just reframe the information that you put into it. Understanding, though, that you have to build on this process of reframing. It doesn't come automatically. And RAS is very bright. So things like, they talk about affirmations and saying positive affirmations for yourself. So if you stand in a mirror and have an affirmation about, I am beautiful, I want to lose weight, but all you see, I can do this. And your RAS is actually not helping you because you've told it that you're overweight. And when you're saying, I am going to do this, I'm going to lose weight, blah, 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 your RAS is going, no, you're not, because you're still overweight. So what you say to your RAS is really key to you reframing it. And we'll learn more about that as we go on. I spend some time, if you want to, and I'll put this, can we put this in the chat? Mel Robbins. Can we put that? The high five. So Mel Robbins is a motivational speaker. She's, I think she did a great here on, shame. She did a really good TED talk on shame and how to get motivated. And she has the high five. And I don't know if anyone there, please put in the chat if you do know of her. But she's recently, does anyone know of her? Let's have a look. The high five, yep, there we go. So she actually said that to get your RAS, you've got to kind of give it a bit of a kick up the bum. And she has the high five, which is starting to motivate yourself to take action is really important, and not to overcomplicate it and not to overcomplicate the thought process. So she has this where you count to 5. So say, for example, you want to get up and go for a run. There are certain things that you do. So in the morning, if you want to get up and go for a run, you plan the night before and get your gear ready. And then you set the alarm on, which is part of routine of change, of creating and making change. And then when your alarm goes off, you count to 5. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you aren't out of bed by the time you've counted 5, you're not going for your run. So you just keep doing that until your brain starts to think, RAS says, hang on a minute, you're counting 5 and you're not moving. You need to move because that's what you told me you would do. And you'll find it sounds simple, but it works. I do it. I sit there and I go 1, 2, anything I have to, procrastination is I'm a procrastinator queen. So now I've learned that if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I may not do it the first time, but if I keep counting, my brain eventually says, you've got to do this. Because you're just telling me you have to do it. And why are you counting and you're not doing it? So the message gets sent to me, do it. And you just do it. So that's a technique that's really good. And yes, Megan, that's absolute. The high 5 habit, using her signature science-backed wisdom. Mel will teach you how to make believing in yourself a habit so that you can operate with confidence that your goals and dreams demand. She's just published a book called The High 5 Challenge, and she's a great storyteller. She shares her vulnerability and she shares her story, and she walks the talk. And the High 5 Challenge is where it steps up from the 5, counting to 5, to actually standing in front of a mirror and giving yourself the High 5 Challenge. she talks about, and I believe this to be true, self-compassion. And we'll look at this later, that once we have compassion for self, we are able to have compassion for others. And it's building up that belief in self in order for us to move to more, or to move forward and to move on to what we desire. It enables us to manage change. It enables us to navigate through change. It enables us to clarity and certainty about life and what we want. And it enables us to stand in our power. Our compassion for self is the most powerful, and how to use our power of choice are techniques that are within our ability to live the life we want to live. So if you, Mel Robbins, there it is in the chat. If you look up her, then you'll see her recently, her book. She has podcasts, and she's, yeah, I really like her. I like her very much. And this is where we've coming to understanding self. So understanding self. And this is a very, I'll share with you a story from me. It took a long journey for me to get to a point where I am comfortable understanding myself. For my journey through my professional career has been what I would call eclectic. And it's not eclectic, disruptive, but it's been like this. I've been fired 3 times, which wasn't the greatest experience, but it was the best experience because it started me on my journey to understanding self. I really didn't understand or believe in me. I really didn't understand what I was all about. And if you read my profile, my superpowers sit in, I'm a square peg in a round hole. I think out of the box. And for a lot of my time, I developed a self-belief that was not great. That, to be accepted, to be successful, you had to be in the box. And that's where you play, Catherine. And when you don't play in that box, you get into trouble and you suffer the consequences. So being an out of the box thinker, being a solution thinker, being a person whose vision, not into detail, not into that, all that stuff. I viewed successful people as being those people, and therefore I wasn't successful. And so when I started my teaching career, being a teacher was actually, that was 20, 30 years, a long time ago. In that environment, I could actually be myself. And I realized that that's what I was good at. But when I took myself out of that environment into a corporate environment, I struggled because there were certain rules and I didn't really understand the rules. In teaching years ago, you had a lot more freedom than you did now. So really you had the School C, bursary, and UE accredited. And so there was a lot of freedom around how to get kids to that point of success for them. But in the box of corporate world, it didn't work for me. And so I kind of pushed outside the box. And the situations for me was that I was good at presenting. I'm good at interviews, comes from the teaching. I'm good at engaging. So when I went to interviews, I would sell myself. But I didn't really understand the audience. I didn't find out about the audience that I was talking to, because I was interested in my ego, was selling, and I like people to like me. So therefore I would just do what they was, could sell myself. And yes, I can do that, which I could, but I really didn't understand what managing expectation, what the key requirements were, and whether I was suited or aligned to that. So I would get the job, and in these 3 incidences, this is what happened. One, I was recommended or headhunted to do the job. I went and sold it, and it wasn't me. And I knew, on the 3rd day, it took me 3 goes to figure it out. On the 3rd job, I walked up the stairs on my first day, and I knew into the reception that I'd chosen the wrong job. I knew that this was not me. But, I went ahead. And it wasn't because of my performance, because I was still performing. It's just that my personality was too big for them. I was just too much in the sense of asking questions, pushing boundaries. They weren't there, and that was fine, but I didn't read that. So in my sense, if I'd known who I was and what I was really good and comfortable in that, I would never have put myself in that situation. The other side is that experience was the start of my journey of self-compassion. It was the start where I was saying, I am enough. I am enough. This is me. And when you have that, you just kind of go, okay, you don't have to worry about anybody else. You don't become overwhelmed by other people's thoughts and feelings and opinions and feedback. As long as you have compassion for self, you will have compassion for others, because you know and accept, and this, I know and accept who I am. I can't be everything to everybody. I know that I play in this team, and that's what I love about us at M2M. I know that I am good at doing the vision, at presenting. I'm good at taking the business to the next. I'm always looking to the future. Isn't that right, Anya? I'm always going, oh, we need to do this. I'll go to Anya. Look, I've seen this idea. I think we should look at it. And that's my job. That's what I do. And then I've got Diella. Do you want to come in, Diella? Come in, pop in, say hi. So this Diella,
what are you going to do about?
Now, Diella, what are you good at? What's your superpower?
Yeah, I think the reason that we work so well together is what you're not good at is where I excel, and vice versa. So I'm more attention to detail. I'm more structured. I like process, and if there isn't a process in place, I really like creating a new process. So streamlining policy, procedure, that sort of thing. Whereas that's definitely not your bag.
No.
But then I wouldn't be able to do what you're doing right now and sit here and talk and still be interesting for as long as. So.
Oh, thanks, and Anya is our implementer. Isn't she, Diella?
She is.
You put the process in place, and Anya makes it happen, and I have the vision. And I think all of us, the three of us, have been on this journey of I am enough, because I know who I am. We have this talk all the time. This is what I do. I say, I just don't put me in there. I can oversee it. I can give my opinion. Don't expect me to do it.
It's almost like that's not my department. That's your department.
Yeah.
And we're really well at it, and we just work together really well as a team.
Yes, exactly. And the other one is self-responsibility.
Yeah.
So thanks. You're self-responsible. We're self-responsible. And it's been a journey. And I think for us, it's, and for me personally, I am responsible. I am responsible for how I live my life. It is only me. And that's the one thing that I love about our power of choice, is that it enables me to act on my self-responsibility. Thanks a lot, Diella, for that. Sharing, thank you.
Don't make me tell the wardrobe story. I know that's coming. You're going to put it in this presentation somewhere.
It will. Now everybody's wanting to know the wardrobe story, but it'll come. So these three things, understanding self, and these are my mantras, and this is what I say, I am enough. And particularly in times when I'm struggling, because it's not like I go, oh, there are times when I feel quite confronted about me, particularly when I get challenging questions, or even organizing this webinar. I've got notes for Africa, but guess what? The universe delivers and I can't see my notes. So I have to trust that I am enough and that I can deliver this for you, because my intent is to serve you and to give you whatever I have to help you move to be forward or to be more, and the tools and strategies. And the self-awareness, I know and accept who I am, and I am responsible. And that is really powerful, because the reflection of self and your self-responsible enables you, self-responsibility enables you to be response-able. So once you, and the mantra, I think if you just say it in front of the mirror, practice it. And when you're confronted, breathe and then just say, I am enough. I am enough. I know and accept who I am. I am responsible. for how I live my life. And when you can say that and just keep repeating it, start the day with it, start the morning when confronted, just I am enough, I am enough. So let's get on to the mindset approach. So this mindset is very important, and it was started by, and I'm going off, as I said, I can't read my notes because I don't know, it says we love your feet, I don't know where they've gone. So it's by Carol Barretz, and she was a psychologist, I think it's Stanford, B-E-R-E-Z. And she came up with, she studied motivation and success. And she said the two factors towards, and I'm sure you all know this, towards personal success and achievement is based on a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. And the growth mindset has language and actions that enable yourself, one, to progress. And the fixed mindset, which we all know, is where you are limiting self-beliefs, which are stopping you from progressing. Once you understand the power of a growth mindset, your world becomes open. Now, I just need to put a caveat in here. This doesn't happen overnight. Change is a process. It's a journey. And these tools and what I'm sharing with you, as I've said before, are part of you trying to take the steps towards change and testing out. For some of you, you might already know the growth mindset, the fixed mindset. But what it enables you to think about is, what is it that I need to help me to manage change, to become more clear about who I am, what I want in life? Does it come from having the thoughts of a growth mindset, or am I in a fixed mindset? If I am in a fixed mindset and I'm saying these things to myself, am I able to change that? Do I want to be in that? Yes. So change happens when we either, for two reasons, we're either running from something or we're running to something. My life was changed incredibly when I lost my parents, because I realized then, and that's often the impetus for change. Something just comes into your life and it just blows your mind, and you get thrown onto the ground and you have to get up, or you have a choice not to. I chose to get up, and I knew that if I didn't get up, I would be on that ground forever. So to overcome the loss of my parents, because they died within 2 days of each other, very suddenly, I knew that I had to make a decision. I didn't know what the actions were going to be, but I knew that I had to start moving forward. I had children, young children, that I had to be there for, but I also knew that I had to take steps to heal. And what I did intuitively is I started to take action, and I started moving. And movement for me is exercise. I started to run. And that journey from going to where I was to this growth mindset was the healing process. And it started with running. Now, did I start straight away and start running? No. It took many weeks for me to be able to get myself out of bed, because I was so consumed with the inability to take action that it took many weeks for me to even get out of bed. But the pattern of routine the night before, I would get my gear ready, I would put it outside, I put my alarm on, and I knew when my alarm went off, and it was probably like the 5-second rule, really, and I didn't know it at the time. I knew that if I didn't get my foot on the ground and pull the covers back, that I would not get out of bed. So what I used to do is, if I can get my feet on the ground and walk to the bathroom, then I was on the journey to moving to take my run. And those are steps, and that's all it is. It's not the huge leaps and bounds, do not work. They are tiny steps. And every time you take a tiny step forward, you congratulate yourself. You be grateful then that's why journaling is really powerful, because you record every moment of steps that you take, or every step, and you are grateful. You celebrate it, because those are the celebrations that get you to where you want to go. So it's a really important, you know, failure is an opportunity to grow. And that goes back to when we did the poll. Many of you are looking at change as an opportunity. And that's great, because that is the start of a growth mindset. Self-belief, overcoming. I mean, can you just quickly in the chat, just tell me how many of you suffer from the imposter syndrome? And that's men or women. I've got women up here because we had this chart and I thought, but I've found that studies have shown that it used to be attributed mainly as women, but men are becoming more and more overcome by this imposter syndrome. So it'd be good to see in the chat if you can. Yeah, the perfectionist. Yep. Yes. Oh, you're Megan. You're. So what the imposter syndrome was initially a study of women and their responses to their self-belief. And they've kind of categorized them into various behaviors and thoughts. So I'm going to have to read this. So if we look at the perfectionist, so the perfectionist is never satisfied and always feels that work could be better. So rather than focus on their strengths, they tend to fixate on the flaws and mistakes. Would that be true, Diella and Megan? Yeah, yes. They often leads to a lot of self-pressure and high amounts of anxiety because you're always perfecting, and sometimes it isn't. And that's where I think with Diella and I, we work well together, because I will pull her in and say, no, that's good. Good is enough. And that's one of our mantras we have, is good is great. Good is great. As long as you can say, we're doing our best, it is enough, then that's a good technique. The next one is the superhero. And this is, this is where have we got a superwoman? Yeah, this is where a superhero, it is a kind of they'd want to do everything. I think there was a book written by the Rushing Woman Syndrome by one of I can't remember her name, Liz, she's a doctor, about how we rush to do everything, how we have to do everything. We have to be a perfect mother. We have to be perfect child rearing, perfect at work, perfect, and be that super, I can do everything. And the pressure becomes too much. And so the self-beliefs that come with us are inbred. Now remember the RAS, the reticular activating system. This is where, Dr. Libby Weaver, thank you. Yeah, Libby Weaver, that's it. Thanks, Barbara. That's where all of these self-limiting beliefs are stored. And what happens is when you are confronted with a response that you naturally have a self-limiting belief to, you start to act and behave in that way. And so what's great about self-belief is that once you know what you are, you can work with it. Once you recognize it, I'm probably a natural genius. So what that means is I can do everything. And then when it comes to, I set kind of lofty goals and I just kind of go, yeah. So I because things naturally come to me, I can set these goals, and when I don't meet them, I get, pretty much crushed. And so managing myself and my goal setting, because then I feel a failure. So I'll set this goal, and like for example, when I decided many years ago that I wanted to start coaching and do this online thing about 2015. And I set this goal and I worked hard for it, but it wasn't really the right goal for me, but I stuck to it because I thought, well, I can do it. And of course, it didn't work out. Now, when I look back in hindsight, which is great, the goal that I was setting and the people I was surrounding myself to help me set that goal were not the right people. So if I'd stepped back and been a bit more self-aware, then I wouldn't have just gone ahead, and it would have helped me being a lot more clearer. The soloist likes to do everything by themselves. They prefer to work alone, and they tend to get self-isolated. Anything that involves them to be involved in a team impacts on their belief about productivity, because they believe they're better serving themselves, working with themselves, because other people can interrupt them and distract them. So it's just asking for help is really hard for a soloist. So if you have a soloist in your team, recognize those behaviors. It's always good to offer help and to work with them. To sort of asking for help can often be a negative thing, well, seen as a negative thing. And so as a leader, it's really interesting to listen to what people are saying, watch their behaviors, and then identify where you think they might best be, and then adopt your approach to meet and support them, because they will be suffering, and well, not suffering, but will be struggling is the word. And if you can help them as a leader and as a manager by recognizing what is their self-belief and where it comes from, it makes your ability to engage and motivate a lot harder, a lot easier, sorry, a lot harder. So now how are we going? So let's look at, before we understand bias, I've been talking a lot. Has anyone got any questions so far that you would like to ask me? Because I've talked a lot and I just need to get a feel of where things are at and where you're at. Moving too fast? How are we going for time? Oh, we've got plenty of time. So if you would like to share anything that you'd like to cover, how are we going? Am I going too fast? Am I too boring? Yes, we've got a chat coming in. What is it? The imposter syndrome. I think that many of us, we all do it. But once again, if you understand where you're at and you're self-aware about it, it gives you that ability to do something about it. And I think that the ability to take action is the key to success. So anything else? Anybody else would like to give me an indication of how the pace is going? Because we've been here and listening to me is good, but we're looking at the next step around understanding bias. Okay, so we'll keep, yes. Fabulous. I've got thank you, Diella. I do. I've done a YouTube. Thanks, Cindy. Diella's going to post a YouTube video I did on the imposter syndrome. So there's a lot of things that I do, little videos and stuff like that on YouTube that you can access. As I said to you before, I'm only sharing with you what I share and do in my life. And what works, and with my clients and coaching clients, it's part of the tools and strategies. I'm a great believer in having tools and strategies to make the change you want to change. And if it is, some tools resonate and some don't, but the responsibility sits with you to try it and to give it a go. Journaling is one thing I'd like to share with you. I think it's really important as part of the self-acceptance, the self-compassion, and the self-acknowledgement of self, is having a journal and sharing those moments of yourself in your writing, a journal, and a daily practice, gratitude, appreciation. I try. Most days I will write in a gratitude journal. And as you can see there's the link to the imposter syndrome video that I've done. Was it this year? You know what? Sometimes I get mixed up in what day it is and what year it is. I think it was this year. I'm not sure, but it sort of shares the definitions. Last year your hair was much shorter. Yeah, I haven't been to the hairdresser yet, and so that's Thanks, Anya, for sharing that. So understanding your bias. So we're looking at decision making now. The first step to making great decisions is understanding, once again, self, and where those decisions, where your thoughts and feelings are coming from in regard to the decision you have to make. So, I mean, I'm not sure if any of you are great decision makers. Some people can do it really quickly. Some people just go bang, make a decision. Other people tend to take a little bit of time to make a decision. But especially in recruitment, I think you become very aware of yourself and your bias, because you do make decisions quickly. You do. We find that it's easy for you to be attracted to like. And so when, and that's for me too, is that when I meet a candidate, if they hit it off, you know, in the sort of energy wise and the conversation and they're expressive, my bias goes towards them, which is not necessarily a good thing. And so what I've understood is that there are certain aspects of bias, and that's again comes back to the RAS, the reticular activating system. I tell you what, once you get control of this, man, your life just opens up. Is that the biases do influence the decisions I make. And one of these decisions, which I am pretty much, is confirmation bias. I will look for what I want or believe true to confirm. So for example, in recruitment, if I believe that this person's attributes and skills are going to be great for this particular role I'm recruiting for, I will look for that in a person. And if they don't, and I will only see that. So it means that I miss everything around. And so I've had to be really, really, and it's pushed me being in recruitment. I've only 5 or 6 years in recruitment, but I've had to be very conscious of confirmation bias. So I like, so I will, and I miss, as I said, all the surrounding bits, which could be really important for this role. So I've had to work on confirmation bias a lot. Does anybody have confirmation bias or recognize confirmation bias? So, so let's have a look at the next one. Availability bias. Now this is, I'm just trying to think of an example. Oh, I know. So you know when you buy a car and it's a red car, say you buy a French, I don't know, Peugeot, and it's red, the moment you drive out of the car lot with your new car, you will spot a red Peugeot, guaranteed. And that is because your RAS, your reticular activation system, RAS, I'll call it RAS, is now focused because you've introduced it to red Peugeots. And so what it will do is it will hunt down a red Peugeot. Now, if you're struggling and you think, oh, you know, you don't want buyer's remorse, it will confirm to you, because obviously your brain's going, well, there aren't that many cars. And then suddenly you bought your car and you go, okay, I've made the right choice, because there are more cars, red Peugeots out on the road. So obviously I didn't realize that I'm buying a European car. I should have bought a Japanese car. Actually buying a European car is good because there's a lot more of them around. So availability bias and confirmation bias are two cognitive processes that have shortcut steps to us making a decision. So the way the brain's wired, it goes straight to that shortcut because it focuses in on what we want to see, because we tell it what to see. So if we aren't sure about the red Peugeot, the brain goes, okay, well, we'll look for one because you've got one. So obviously there are more there. So that's one of them, availability bias. And the curse of knowledge. Yeah, that's me too. I'm actually all three. This is particularly difficult when you are explaining something to somebody on the assumption that they understand what you're saying. And I think when we look way back, somebody was saying, how do I take the person on the journey? And I think Megan said, how do I, manage my response to change and invite others on it? When you're wanting to take people on the journey, it comes back to standards and extras as well. When you assume that you are talking and what you're saying is very straightforward, you're probably wrong, because the person who's receiving that probably doesn't understand it. And what happens is then you make a decision based on their reaction. For example, if you talk to academics and they're doing their research, and I have a friend, couple of very, very good friends, I do not talk work with them unless they come down to my level. Not that they, curse of knowledge, nothing like that in the relationship, but they assume that I know these things, and I don't. I don't know the language. So when you've got a new person starting into a job, there's a lot of technical language about the work environment, your specific one, that they have to adapt. And so if your induction and onboarding program doesn't explain that language well to them, what it does is it could, if they make mistakes or they don't understand, or it could take their learning process a lot longer, it could influence your decision or perception about them. Whereas if you clarify with them the technical aspect or the intangible elements of the role or the intangible elements of the environment and take them on that journey of understanding, then your decision or perspective, you could actually make a decision that goes, actually, when they're no good. It's like, because they don't understand. It's like, well, actually, maybe they don't understand because you're communicating something that they don't get, which most people wouldn't. So that curse of knowledge, I'm like that. I said, why don't you get it? As a teacher, I had to really be, with children are great because I go, nah, don't get it. Adults, they don't. They're very, they will hide it and they will deflect it. And that can influence your decision making if you're not understanding where that bias is coming from. So the confirmation available, and there are many other biases. I've chosen these three because these are the three that I can talk to. These are the three that probably influence my decision making, and I've had to work really, really hard. And as I said, in recruitment, it's heightened big time. It has heightened the awareness for me personally around these biases in my decision making and in positioning people to clients. It is it's very interesting how quickly the brain takes the shortcut to making a decision. And once again, if you know it and you know where you tend to go with making decisions in regard to bias, you can actually manage it, and hopefully it doesn't take over. So this leads into the self-awareness, which we talked about. I am enough, I am who I am, I accept it, and I am responsible for how I live my life, and then I have the power of choice. So once all these things that lead up to the mindset, the strategies around growth and fix and how to move from growth and fix, self-acceptance, self-responsibility, it sets you up on a platform where you have the power of choice. And for me, this is probably the most powerful thing you can have. And it is where you manage your RAS, your gatekeeper. It is where you manage your thoughts, your reactions. It is where you only have control. This is where you sit in your power. If you ever want to watch a great, I'm sure you've heard of Brené Brown. She did The Power of Vulnerability on a TED Talk. I watch that all the time because when I watched it the first time, that was my awakening moment, epiphany. I was like, oh my God, it was years ago I watched it. For me, that was the moment when I realized that only I have the power to choose how I want to live my life. I cannot control anything around me. And Susan David, emotional agility is being agile enough to manage my emotions and find that moment and choose that moment of time where I can take action. I can choose how I respond, and anything around me, I have no control over. I can't control the pandemic. I can't control, I don't know, what can't I control? Anything bad that happens, in events that are bad. And when one of the reasons I worked hard to accept and understand what the power of choice was for me was when I spoke earlier about losing my parents. I had to choose, because if I didn't, I would never be able to move forward in my life. And as I said before, change is either you come from somewhere you're running from, or you're running to. They often say it's freedom from and freedom to. Mine was freedom to, the healing and the moving to where I could live life in acceptance, awareness, and self-responsibility. Still sad, but healing. And so I think that this power of choice is one of the key things, and if anything that I share with you today, that power of choice is your, what is it? In Star Wars, they had that saber that you just look around. Watch Brené Brown's talk. She encapsulates the power of vulnerability. And that is where you can stand in your power and go, I don't know the answer. That's where all those self-limiting beliefs are managed. You never get rid of your self-limiting beliefs. They are still there, but you learn how to manage them. And sometimes I think, you never, the question, somebody talked about understanding negative thinking. You will always have negative thoughts. I think it was way back. Was it? Yeah. You will always have limiting self-beliefs. You will always have negative thoughts. You will always have to push yourself forward. You will always have to keep moving. You will always have to deal with uncertainty and disruption. But the one thing that you have in control is your power of choice. And slowly over time, you learn how, through using your power of choice, you learn how to manage those limiting self-beliefs, those behaviors, those negative thoughts. You sit with them. One of the things that we did last year when a lot of people were made redundant and lost their jobs before in COVID the first time in 2020, one of the things that they came, because they wanted a job, and they would come to us with their CVs and they'd say, we just need a job. But there was a lot of pain there and a lot of fear. And one of the things that I would say to them is, this is what you have to do, right? Come to me in 2 weeks' time. I want you to spend 2 days being miserable. I want you to sit with your feelings of pain and fear. Sit with them for 2 days. I want you to think negative thoughts. I want you to think how useless. I want you to be in that pain. Just feel it. Feel the fear, feel the scariness, feel the loss of hope. Feel everything that you feel is where you are at the moment. Feel it for 2 days. Set a time. When you hit that time, Wednesday, 9 o'clock, you wake up, you no longer acknowledge it. You put it to the side and say, I will manage you. I know that you're there, but you are no longer loud in my head. And then you come to me and we will start working on how to move you forward to getting a job, or how to move you forward with your personal brand, how to position you in the market. Because the moment you bring your pain and fear and present it, people feel it. And that's too much for them. But when you deal with it and acknowledge it and are aware of it, and then tell it, it's time to be quiet. It's time for me to choose to move forward. When you present yourself to others, your energy is much clearer, and you don't feel and bring that pain to the moment of that relationship. People are not aware of how they present. It takes 30 seconds. It takes me 5. Some people say 90. In 5 seconds, I can tell, because the energy that you bring to that relationship is felt by the other person. As soon as you walk into the room, that person feels it. Unconsciously, they will feel it. So, and that's when all their biases start to operate, because they're placed in a feeling of something's wrong. I don't know what it is. It must be that person. And then you'll find, and what we found also, when they didn't go through that technique, at the very raw stages of losing their job, of being made redundant, of being in pain, that their voice got a lot quieter, that they started to, body language was far more inward, and they presented themselves as a lot more meeker. Many of the, even you noticed it with men, they started to tremble when you would ask them questions about who they are and what they wanted to do and what were the good things that they did. And my one piece of advice I just gave is go away, sit with it for 2 days, and when you finish that, park it for a little while, make a choice, and then come back to me and let's work with it. And it was amazing what the change in people. They'd say to me, oh, I really, 2 days, do you think you needed that long? Some people know, but you know, it was sometimes I was like, I was just watching my clock because I wasn't allowed to think positive things, and I stuck to it. But you know how exhausting it is to be negative all the time? I was looking forward to wanting to come to you, but I knew that I had to be ready. And I found that 2 days of going to bed saying all these horrible things about myself was really exhausting, and I don't want to do it anymore. And when I heard that, I knew, okay, you're ready for it. And that's the power of choice. That is when you choose to take action and self-responsibility. So here we are in another way. So we've looked at bias, we've looked at understanding self and the power of choice, and this is all to do with decision making. And this is another model which can help some of you who commented earlier about bringing people on the journey, about making decisions and bringing everybody on board to that process of making a decision, coming on the same page, I think was one of the comments. And I'll just tell you a little story about me and how I use this model. So my husband and I and the 2 kids, we would go out up the road, live in Mount Albert. We'd go to this restaurant up the road when they were younger, Chinese restaurant, same one, because it was cheap and it was good food, and we would go there. And we would go and sit down at the table, and then they'd bring across the menus, and it was always, you know, very busy and lots of noise and stuff, and they'd bring the menus, and you know, the Chinese restaurants, they've got pages and pages and pages. So my husband would take the menus, and my husband would look and he'd read through the menu. He'd read, and we'd been there heaps of times, but he'd always read it. It was like, oh God. My daughter and I would just look at it, make a decision. And my son would look around and he'd say, oh, wonder what they're having. What do you think we should have? What do you feel like? And he would just keep asking questions. And by the time the waiter would come, my daughter and I had made our decision. My husband was still reading the menu, and my son was still looking around, wondering what other people were having and what that looked like. And he'd noticed things like the curtains had changed colour since we were last here. And I'm going, just make a decision. My daughter and I would go, just make the choice, hurry up. It's not like the food's any different. We've been here before, you've got your favourites. And this conversation would go on, and then the guy would leave, and then he'd come back. We'd go, for God, make the decision. Stop reading the menu, Dad. So what was happening in this dynamic of my family is that each of us had a different way of processing information and making a decision. So my daughter and I are the same, which does create. So what happens is my husband's a thinker. So he loves data. So he reads instruction manuals. He'll read it through, which is great because it means he can get things done and fixed and whatever. But he will read through information, and which is important. But making a decision, not so great, because he needs to have more information, and then he gets confused because what is the information I need to make this decision? Like this menu, there's so much here. If I read through, you think hopefully I can make a decision. No, not really. So he's a thinker, right? my son is a feeler. So he feels emotion. So he'll feel the energy in the room. He'll feel, because I said, what do you think? Which is really saying, what do you feel about this decision? And how do you feel about if we did this? What would that feel like for us, etc., etc. So he's very much a feel. His language is very feeling. And my daughter and I, boom, knows. We just like, bang, we know the answer. So you don't bring me a 50-page, I can read it. If you bring me a 50-page report, just bring me the main points and I will make a decision on that. And if I have to change my mind, bring me more information shortly as to why I should change my mind. So this is the baseline of think, feel, know. This is how people process information. Now, what happens in the business world is a lot of decisions are made here, right? They make them in the thinking, reports and and then they zip them over to the know. And the person makes a decision based on the reports. What happens is they miss the stage. Now, when I was coaching a group of business leaders, they had to, I was as a business coach, I was going there to support them around their decision-making and strategy. And there was myself and another coach. And they came to us and said, we just can't get the senior management team aligned. We just can't get them. We make a decision and everybody goes, yes, yes. And then we come back the next meeting, or particularly around the strategy that we want to implement. And it's all over the place. And there's another thing somebody's throwing in. And there's another thing. So what we need is we need to understand how to get on the same page, because these decisions are important to our business and our growth, but we just can't seem to get it together. And what was happening is that most of the guys in the, or people in the leadership team were thinkers and knowers. So they would set the strategy, they'd say, this is what we've got to do, and they'd sit in the meetings, we'd facilitate it, everybody would agree, but they never asked the feelers, how do you feel about that? How is that going to impact? What would that do if we did this? What are your thoughts? What happened is these feelers would go out after the meeting and talk to other people and say, I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure about how it goes. And so it would create an impasse, I suppose. So these people here are very important. The processing of information, once you go to the thinker, get the information, absolutely important. The feeler, pass it to the feeler, discuss thoughts and feelings around it, and what this impact and what it would look like, and have that discussion. Those are emotions and feelings that need to be discussed. And then pass it to the knower, and the knowers will make the decision. However, make sure, being a knower, I know this, that when you pass it to the knowers, they don't implement, you take it to the thinkers. And then you give them a very tight framework. This is what we need to do, that you go do it, put the project plan in place, and these are the timeframes. Make the decision, we go for it. That is how you work with getting people on the same page when it comes to making decisions, understanding how people process information. One more thing before I wrap up, because I'm getting this. Think, feel, know, you can adapt your style. So I'd like to know if you could quickly just pop in the chats what you think you are. Oh, hang on, we've got this, haven't we? In the chat, sorry. Poll question, here we go. What do you think you are? Do you think you're a thinker, feeler, or knower? And don't think about it, just go boom, that's it. Intuitive, just people will know what you think you are when it comes to making a decision. Thinker, feeler, knower. Data, feeling, like to engage with people, knower, boom, make a decision. So what are we getting in the polls there? Yep, how are we going? Oi! Whoa, not sure. Okay, if you're not sure, I'm going to take some license here and say you're probably a feeler, because feelers find it hard to figure it out. The no is wonderful, and thinkers, and that's really important because that's the kind of work that you guys do, is in that very much that thinking space and process space. But this tool is great if you really want to encourage people and bring them on board and understand how they process information so that you can move the decision process along where everybody's on the same page. So knowers are great because they make great decisions, but don't get them to implement it, go back up to the thinkers. So that's great. So we're going to move very quickly now to MOJO. This is the energy side. Oh, I'm getting at my seat now. Here we go. So MOJO is that positive spirit toward what we are doing now that starts from the inside and radiates outside. So everything that I've done up to now is about what's going on the inside. And when you work on the inside, everything just comes out. So Marshall Goldsmith wrote a book on if you've lost your mojo, what to do about it if you've lost it and how to get it back. And I've actually done a video. Have I? No, we won't do that video because I'm terrible. No, we don't get it. But have I done one video? Yeah, I have. Long time ago. So mojo versus nojo. The nojo part is the languishing part where you just have no motivation. There's no energy. There's no, you're just blah, blah and meh are the languages, are the language of the thought words of languishing. So why is it important? Because if you don't have mojo, there is no action, there is no energy, and your activation of life starts to dull. The person who you are starts to diminish. Remember how I said with the element, those people who'd lost their job, the candidates, how their body would just go inward. That's how you start to present. So mojo is really important to you taking action, to you energy, to your energy being one that people attract to you and you attract to them. So it's important. So how do you get it back? What is mojo? It is energy, it is action, and it is motivation. Those three things are important. The energy is the starting part in taking action. So how do you start getting energy? Oh, well, we're going to watch a little video here by a guy called Sam, I don't know, what's his name? I can't remember, but so he's a cute kid. And I want to watch because sometimes we just need to have kids tell us shit, tell us the truth, right in the eye, and just say, this is what it is. And I believe this is really, it's what I'm trying to get your mojo back. Here we go. Oh, hang on. Do you want us to play it? Oh, no, I can't. How do we play it? Oh, technical. Is it there? I'll put that link in there. We'll put the link on the thing. I don't know what's happened, but the link for this one has, whoops, we've got 15 minutes. Okay. Have we got it? Oh, I'll put the link later. Anyway, it's a great kind of a truth-speaking young kid just giving us adults a message about what our mojo is all about. It's a really good one. And so here are some strategies to getting your mojo back. I'm going to go through these really quickly. In the takeaway, we actually have actions that you can take where you can actually do it yourself and practice these strategies. What I do is to acknowledge, and in the journal, 5 benefits and feelings I will get from taking action. What are the 5 great things that will happen to me, and how will I feel if I take action? What is the mindset that I need to take action? Where am I right now, and what do I need for me to take action, or for me to start to find my energy to move? The next one is quality MOJO time. Spend time, find time with people who have energy, who have MOJO. Be with them, engage with them, connect with them. People that are, you surround yourself with people who have MOJO, it's contagious. If you isolate, it's hard. So if you can surround and find those people who have MOJO, go find them, spend time with them, hang out with them, and pick up their vibe, because that's the start of energy, which you can take into action. Know what's important in your life. Know what it is you want. This is the whole thing of self-acceptance, self-responsibility, self-compassion, is know what's important. And if it's important and you have clarity about it, you will take action, because you will know that that is what the desires that you want to achieve. So if you're knowing your priorities in life are very important, know what your MOJO is. Know what those limiting self-beliefs, know what your procrastination is all about. Know what your deflection is all about. Know those thoughts, name them, talk to them. Know your MOJO, because your MOJO can be very loud. You have the power of choice to choose. Do I want my MOJO to dominate my life, or do I want my MOJO? That's your choice. Self-responsibility, being response-able. So know your MOJO. That's me. That was like a bit of a rush, quick time there. Should we watch the video or questions and answers? Oh, thank you, Marina. Now this is question time. Watch the video. I'm just thinking do you want questions or watch the video? I don't know. We had a technical interest. What is it that you guys want? Do you want video, questions? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything that you need clarification on? I think if I go back to the, resilience to change, being open and to accept change, depending on how do we look at change? I've tried to answer everything that most people have sort of set in the sense of their expectation. How to be friends with change, how to combat procrastination, how to acknowledge your feelings with change before moving forward. Sit with them, acknowledge them. There's this toxic positivity, ignore it. Toxic positivity is one of the most debilitating ways in which we can live our life. And you have to be, and Susan David talks about that, is that the assumption is that we always have to be positive, that, nothing negative's in our life. Well, that's a lot of bullshit, because it is. It's how we manage and respond to it. That's the key. So the upbeatness is I'm always positive. In Instagram and social media, you see all these wonderful photos. If you look at them on that surface, you think they're having a great life. That's the form of toxic positivity. And if you compare yourself to that, you're going to be struggling. So be very careful around being over influenced by the term toxic positivity, because it will not serve you. The thoughts and the feelings that serve you well, stay with those, because they will, yes, Diala, as she says, take a social media holiday. So, we've got this time. If there's anything, thank you, John. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. As I said, we've got our next sessions coming up. The one is, here it is. The next one is Wednesday, the 2022, 16th of Feb at 10 to 12, same time. And this is the strategy. So we've done the mindset, we've done self, and now we're putting it into a strategy to how do I define, how do I externalize this? How do I take action to put forward who I am, what I'm all about, my personal brand, how do I position myself, how do I take the action with a plan, and what would that look like? It's going to be exciting. I think so, because it's very important to start taking action. So here it is here, the next webinar. I hope to see you at the next webinar on February the 16th. Really looking forward to it. Yes. Great, Cindy. A key takeaway for me is acknowledging and understanding yourself and how one operates. Absolutely. Thank you. Hearts to you, Cindy. Hearts to you. Thank you very much. As I said, my aim here is to serve you. And if I've done that, then pretty happy. Pretty happy. Oh, thanks, Cindy. The heart, the love. And hopefully we'll be meeting again next month. No, in February. Yeah, look forward to it. Okay. Thank you, Diella, my cohort. Thank you, Megan. I think we'd like to close up, Megan.
Lovely, thank you. Look, I'm sure everyone who has joined the session today has taken away really great tips and tools. I certainly know I have, and have a better understanding of what personal growth means to us. I also know now I spend so much time with people who've got MOJO. That's fantastic. For more tools, as we've just said, please do register for the strategy session 16th of February and the results session 16th of March. We've given you some summer holiday to think and reflect on the clarity one. Come back ready to face that new year with some great new tips and tools and thinking from Catherine. So iti kaiako ka nui te mihi, Catherine. I aku hoa mahi ka kite ano I a koutou. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. And be safe, everyone. Have a great Christmas. Bye.
Thank you, Catherine. See you, everyone.
Yes, bye.